Spinosaurus is my favorite dinosaur, and it's probably one of the most popular dinosaurs out there because it shows up practically everywhere and everybody likes to talk about it. It's, of course, a dinosaur that changes quite frequently, and so its representation in media always seems to be a little bit outdated by current standards. And that is what we're talking about. We're talking about the Spinosaurus designs that showed up in shows or movies, documentaries, things like that, and kind of talking about their designs, the kind of route that they took with the designs, if they were accurate for the time, or if they were never accurate to begin with. I'm not going to be talking about video games and things like that because I know that Spinosaurus has shown up in other media. I'm just sticking with those two right now to kind of keep it as brief as possible. But if you want to, I could dedicate a separate video to video games and other media that Spinosaurus has showed up in. But for now, this is what we're doing. We'll go ahead and start off with our childhood, Dinosaur King.
Dinosaur King is what you wanna be, yeah.
Did you guys watch Dinosaur King? I watched Dinosaur King every Saturday morning. I was just straight to Dinosaur King. And of course in it they had this guy named Spiny. He was of course my favorite dinosaur because, again, Spinosaurus was my favorite dinosaur. And its design, I'd say, is pretty representative of our thoughts of Spinosaurus at the time. At that time, Spinosaurus was quite a bit different from what it is now. It was a lot more representative of the typical theropods with the longer legs, the regular rounded stiff tail. All in all, it's pretty good as a Spinosaurus design. It's incredibly recognizable, and when you look at it, you'll probably say that that is a Spinosaurus. And honestly, it definitely fits the whole style of the show, especially now that the show is like pretty old compared to a lot of us now, because like a lot of us grew up with that type of show. And if you'd look at it, then yeah, it's like kind of like a time capsule to the past. It's really cool to see things like that, see like what dinosaurs look like in the past. Next up, we'll go ahead and talk about the Planet Dinosaur Spinosaurus. Once again, this is a design that is very representative of the time. Planet Dinosaur came out in 2011, and at that time, there was next to nothing known about the animal. Like, we had very fragmentary remains that were actually destroyed in a museum during World War II. And so we had basically nothing to go off of with this animal. Most of what we had was brought in through comparisons of other Spinosaurids, such as like Baryonyx. And of course, this design represents that, but it's really accurate for the time, which is good for a documentary because it actually presented real information, and its overall behavior was really cool too, especially seeing it swim with the pressure sensors, integrating that into its overall hunting style, and then like integrating its claws into how it hunted and things like that. And the design looks pretty good too. It does seem to have osteoderms, which I think that this is common for Spinosaurus a lot. We don't really have evidence of osteoderms, and again, these look like osteoderms, so I'm just going to say that they are. But I think that they're mainly placed in there to kind of like represent the osteoderms of modern day crocodilians, or as the osteoderms on those guys are more commonly known as, is scutes. And it's because there was a lot of features that are very reminiscent of crocodilians. So I think that one of the things that they did was just apply more features to the Spinosaurus designs, such as the osteoderms. It's a very good design for its time too, and it's a lot of people's favorite interpretation of the animal, even though it's incredibly outdated right now, which is a good thing. You know, it means we're learning more about the animal. It's not a bad thing that things like this become outdated. It just means that we're learning more about these animals as time goes on. And yeah, we might learn more in the future. It's just Spinosaurus was an interesting case because it was known from fragmentary remains from the get-go, and those remains themselves were destroyed. So like there really wasn't a lot known about the animal. So of course, over time, we're going to learn more about it. Sticking with documentary, we will go with Bigger Than T.Rex. This is the National Geographic documentary that was released shortly after the quadrupedal idea for Spinosaurus. So if you didn't know, eventually more fossil material of Spinosaurus was found and more of a picture was drawn of this animal. And it led to the idea that Spinosaurus was a quadrupedal animal, and it would kind of walk on its knuckles to prevent breaking its claws. And this is definitely a 2014 idea. It's one that didn't really last too long, which is unfortunate because they developed a really good documentary around it, really kind of detailing how we led to that conclusion. But eventually the center of gravity was shown to be in a place to where Spinosaurus would be with bipedal locomotion and not a quadruped as was shown in the documentary. So this is of course outdated. The overall design looks really good though. It definitely looks like a Spinosaurus, and it incorporates the kind of notch design into the sail, something that became very popularized after a lot of paleo art depicted it like this. It's not something that we necessarily know about. We don't really know the exact way the sail looked like, so this could be as accurate as any other. Keeping with that, in Amazing Dino World, another documentary, Spinosaurus is briefly shown. I mean, it might be shown more in Amazing Dino World 2. I haven't gotten the chance to see that yet. But in the first one, it's shown briefly before being attacked by a mosasaur, and it, of course, incorporates the quadrupedal idea. I believe it came out around the same time that idea was fresh, which is actually a good thing because that means they were pushing to have accurate dinosaurs in their documentary and really kind of taking the time to apply those new studies to, give you an idea of what these animals really look like, even though it's incredibly outdated right now, also along with the tail. I don't think I mentioned the tail yet, but Spinosaurus did have a more paddle-like tail, which is very interesting. It makes Spinosaurus an incredibly unique theropod because most other theropods do have this kind of stiff, rounded tail. But now we move on to one that I don't think was really ever trying to be accurate, and that is the Monsters Resurrected Spinosaurus. Now, I think that this show was primarily going for getting butts and seats, and so they wanted to make as cool looking animals as they possibly could. And that is definitely apparent with this Spinosaurus design. It's very, very awesome, bro. It has spikes all over the head. It's like gargantuan. It completely annihilates everything in its path. I really like the sail color, though. I like how bright it is. That's a cool one. But yeah, it's shown as like a primary apex predator for all of the land animals that was around it. Never really incorporated any of the piscivorous diet to Spinosaurus. I'd say that this documentary is not really a good representation of Spinosaurus, even for the time. I think at the time we were kind of leaning more towards the piscivorous diet, and they showed it, annihilating Carcharodontosaurus, Rugops, Sarcosuchus, all kinds of different animals. I don't even think the Sarcosuchus lived with Spinosaurus. So there's that too. It's very kind of Godzilla-like, I guess, with arms facing the wrong way and stuff like that. And of course, our interpretation of it now is completely different to our interpretation of it then anyway. But this wasn't even accurate for the time. And finally, the Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus. This Spinosaurus is the Spinosaurus of all Spinosauruses. I say that because this Spinosaurus is the one that popularized the dinosaur into the media. Like, this is what gave it kind of the household name that it has now. It's very infamous in this movie of completely annihilating a T.Rex that people were not happy about. And I've explained in another video that I think that it was kind of a curse that Spinosaurus showed up in this movie because we knew nothing about it. We had no fossil material of it whatsoever. All we had were some images and descriptions left from its initial discovery, and that's all we really had to go off of. And because of that, now that we learn more about it, people like it less and less because their idea of Spinosaurus was its interpretation in Jurassic Park 3. It's truly unfortunate because Spinosaurus is an incredibly interesting dinosaur that was, suited for its specific ecological niche. And that niche is just completely different to what people, perceive as cool. Or what they initially wanted that niche to be for Spinosaurus. But all of that aside, this design is accurate for the time. We didn't know anything about it. At the time, Spinosaurus was simply seen as a baryonyx with a sail on its back. And that's because we had to use other animals to kind of fill in the gaps of this animal. And that's definitely what you see in the movie. It's just a giant baryonyx with a sail on its back. And yep, I'd say that is definitely accurate to what we believe Spinosaurus looked like, and it's an iconic design in and of itself, and definitely works as its kind of in-universe design, one that they've carried over into Camp Cretaceous, which is good. You got to keep up that continuity, and I like the design, of course. I think it's incredibly iconic, and I have no issues with it whatsoever. It's an example of science progressing on from 2001, and again, it's a good thing that we learn more about Spinosaurus. It's not a bad thing that things like this become inaccurate with time. It's just, we're just learning more about this incredibly unique animal. I just wanted an excuse to talk about Spinosaurus a little bit more. As I said, it's my favorite dinosaur. This is not in any particular order. I just wanted to take a look at these specific designs and kind of see what sets them apart from one another and how they differ from the real life animal. Of course, they're all extremely different to our current understanding of the animal. I don't think we've really gotten an updated view of Spinosaurus in modern day documentaries or movies or anything like that. And a lot of that could be that documentary and filmmakers are simply just avoiding it because, of course, it might be obsolete in a few years. And yeah, that's very much the case because we are constantly learning more about Spinosaurus, and we probably will continue to learn more about Spinosaurus. It's an incredibly weird dinosaur, and I'm truly excited to learn more about it. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and have an awesome day.